Welcome to Just Write Julie, the writing podcast where craft meets strategy and creativity meets clarity. I'm Julie Navickas, romance author, corporate communications pro, and university instructor. Most writing podcasts stay in one lane. This one brings together three: craft, career, and communication. Each episode features authors, editors, and marketers to help you strengthen the work, position it, and talk about it with confidence. If you're ready to write better and share your work with intention, you're in the right place. Just Write Julie. Let's get to work. Welcome to Just Write Julie, the podcast where writing meets strategy and creativity meets clarity. I'm your host, Julie Navickas, a multi-published agented romance author, a corporate communications pro, and a university instructor. And I am thrilled to be here on this very first episode of Just Write Julie with my friend Shelby Holt, a film and television casting associate with a lifelong passion for storytelling. Shelby, welcome.
Hi.
I'm so excited to finally chat with you. This is
I know, me too.
Well, Shelby,
to be here.
Me too. And I really appreciate you being the very first guest on this brand new endeavor. And for those of you who don't know, Shelby is really the catalyst behind the Just Write Julie podcast. She encouraged me to get started. And so I maybe have twisted her arm to be the first guest on the show.
You didn't have to twist too hard, though.
Okay, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, Shelby, let's start our conversation today. You and I have known each other for a few years, and I was wondering if maybe you want to start by telling listeners the story of how you and I first connected.
Yes, through, correct me if I'm wrong, a Facebook page, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the page that it was.
No.
I don't even know if I'm still a member, but it was a writing group, and I don't remember if someone else posted or you posted or if I posted. I have no memory of it, but basically we connected through this group, and yeah, I've been talking ever since, which is
Isn't that
crazy.
silly? That is absolutely crazy. That's my memory of it too. So that was back in probably mid 2020, somewhere in that space.
Yeah.
And I remember having written my very first draft of my very first novel. And I put a call out for anyone who was willing to swap stories with me just to get some beta reader feedback and just see, right? Because I was told that was, what you were supposed to do when you finished writing.
Yep.
And you lucky girl, you were the one that responded. And we swapped stories that very first time. And it makes me laugh now because it's all these years later. And I think I talked to you more than I talked to almost anyone else during the day.
I know, it's crazy. Like, we exchange emails so frequently.
Constantly.
Yeah. And it's been good motivation though as well.
I completely
have
agree.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that accountability kind of component of it, which is really, really helpful for me to know that, okay, if I shared a story with Shelby, I know that I'm going to be looking for her feedback. I have edits that I'm going to need to make because you always had such insightful comments for me. But it's just that consistent chat that I know that I need to keep up pace to be able to share with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
vice versa.
Oh, good.
We know that you can wrap out a story so quickly that I'm like, oh my gosh, Julie's over here doing all this. I need to step up my game.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure I consistently annoy you with can you read this for me again?
No, not at all.
Well, while we're kind of on the conversation, I think of you, Shelby, as kind of like my critique partner. And so for listeners who may not know or may not have one, do you value having a critique partner, and how does it impact your storytelling?
Certainly. Because I know we've discussed this many times. I went through a lot of trial and error trying to find a critique partner through beta readers. And with the story that I had initially exchanged with you, well, actually, I don't know if it was the first story I shared with you, but the first one that I had seeked beta readers for. And I think I went through between 30 and 40 beta readers.
Oh my gosh.
And some feedback was really, really useful. And then others, not so much.
Not so much.
And then some people you just encounter who are really weird and maybe not your vibe, or, or you get the flake who doesn't respond. You send them your pages and then you read theirs and then you never hear from them. And you're like, okay.
which is wonderful. Time well spent, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it took a lot to even find somebody that is longer term that you're trying to find a relationship with because it's such a unique experience to like sit and write a book and then to want to share it. And so to find the right person to share that with, that is the first set of eyes that's seeing it is really useful.
Absolutely. Yeah, you invaluable advice there. If there's anyone here who has not taken advantage or tried to find a critique partner, that's one of the best pieces of advice that I can certainly give. I don't know, Shelby, if you'd agree with me on that,
A
but
100%, yes.
yeah, having that person who knows your voice well enough and knows your storytelling skills. And one thing that you really do for me is you challenge me, where I think I'm like, oh, I think this is going to work. We'll see if Shelby says something. And of course you do. Of course you point it out and you're like, I'm going to challenge you, right? Because I know that you can do better.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's true. It's true. Every time I'm like writing something and I'm like, I know Julie's going to circle back to that. Like, I already know it. Like, it's flagged in my head and then you will. And I'm like, oh,
All
okay.
right,
I'll,
point
I'll have
made.
to fix that.
Yep, absolutely. But see, it's like the stuff like that if you don't have somebody who's routinely and consistently reading your work and who knows what your skills and ability
Mhm.
are, you could smooth right over that and not come back to it. And then your story is not as sharp as it could be.
100%.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Well, Shelby, I know you and I know your career, but listeners don't. And so I'm wondering, you have such a just a unique and really fascinating role in the most exciting, I think, industry out there. And so, would you tell us a little bit about your career trajectory, your school experience, and kind of like how did you get into this space?
Um, yes, so I'm a film and television casting associate, and I went to school. I grew up in Los Angeles, and so I ended up going to film school out there. And I went to a program where it changes every month. And so you learn directing and editing and writing. And I enjoyed the entire process of it. And so, like, each month you would get to learn something new, and you're like, oh, that's really fun and exciting. But every month it was like, I enjoy it, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing that.
Right.
And so when it got to the end of the program where you can do your thesis and certain students can pick to do if you want to do a project to where you're filming a short film.
Wow.
And a lot of people did that, including me. I ended up making one, which was a really fun experience. But the only thing that wasn't covered was casting. And so me and two of my friends, we ended up getting together and we ended up casting like 30 different theses. I don't know if that's multiple. Um, and because nobody wanted to do it. Everyone was like, okay, we want talent in our project, but we don't want to do the legwork to do
Right.
it. And so we ended up taking that and casting all of these projects.
Oh my gosh.
And that's when I found I was like, oh, I actually really enjoyed this.
This was
And
fun. Yeah.
yeah, and it was something that wasn't even taught. It was just something that we had to pick up and learn.
Mm.
And so after graduating, I was like, I think that's what I want to pursue. And so then I went those steps of trying to get into that world, which was quite difficult to do.
I would
Uh,
imagine.
yeah, because it's like the entire film industry itself is very much you have to know somebody to kind of get in.
Yeah.
And so I had to find somebody to know to kind of get in and wiggle myself in and
That's
so yeah.
incredible. It's just so
Yeah.
fun, for you to have that space where you can imagine a character and then you can think of an actor or an actress, who would be the perfect, representation
Right.
of their voice and their style and what they do for the story. Like it's just fascinating to have that kind of perspective.
And it really is. And you get to see so much talent that will read the same piece of work, but then when
Mhm.
someone else reads it, you're like, oh,
Oh,
like it kind of clicks a little bit more with that
yeah,
person.
without
Uh,
a doubt.
so yeah, it's
Very
a
cool.
fun job.
I'm sure it is. What are some of the favorite shows or films that you've worked on?
Um, right now I'm working on The Hunting Wife season 2, which I really enjoyed working season 1. So it's been like the same crew coming back. And so that's been a
Oh,
really fun
cool.
experience. Um, there's been so many.
You've
It's like
always
each
shared
project
such
is so
cool, yeah.
different. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and you're working with different people each time. And so it's always such a unique experience. But we just wrapped Outer Banks season 5, which is the last season. And so that was a really fun show to work on. And that one was closer to home. They filmed it here, well, not here. They filmed it in Charleston. And so, yeah, that one was fun.
Wow, that's so fun.
Yeah.
It's just a unique space to be able to find yourself in. And it makes me wonder, so you spend so much time thinking about the character.
Mhm.
How does that inform your individual storytelling?
I think it's something we were recently talking about that I had this revelation, and I find that when I write, it's very heavily dialogued. And I
Yes.
think that that is a huge influence of like working in film because it's 90% dialogue that's
Yeah.
filled in once you get to set and you have these characters that kind of bring it to life. And so I think that that is something that I've been reflecting on where I'm like, oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I need to kind of do some internal work on that and see if it's great that that is like where my voice is, or if it's like I
Yeah.
need to find a balance for that.
That is fascinating. And you're right. Now that you say it, I'm recalling one of our most recent conversations of like, this is really dialogue heavy. I'm
Very
like,
much
yeah, but
so.
that's kind of your style. Like that's your voice and that's how you move your story forward. And I think I always take the opposite approach. And I always feel like I need to go back and add more. I'm like, there needs to be more that's happening in this scene versus just me describing what's happening.
Right.
So it's funny how you and I approach it differently. But I could see
Yeah.
from your casting experience and like your expertise in the industry, you would rely on that more for storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. Like, as you say, everyone has such a unique approach when they're like
Mhm.
sitting down to actually do it that, and yeah, everyone has their own voice. So it's a kind of reflection of them.
It is. It certainly is. Well, let's talk a little bit about your most recent story. And I loved this one. I've read many novels that you've put together. And so you have been working on The Bones of December. Would you tell listeners a little bit about what does that story look like and where are you in the process?
Well, to start, I'm in the process of querying, which
Yeah,
is
everyone's
more
favorite.
like the trenches of querying. But it, the story itself is kind of a mirror of a previous story that I had queried
Hmm.
last year that I found to be very unsuccessful in the querying process. And so when writing this newest one, I really was reflecting on like what I think didn't necessarily work in the first book
Hmm.
that needed to be adjusted in this next one. And so I very much followed the same sort of outline and just put some tweaks on the story itself to where I think it strengthens it.
Yeah.
Um, but
Like,
yeah.
yeah, no, it's not in that query process. I think, well, I know you and I could fill probably 24 straight hours talking about that
Hmm.
process, the industry, and how difficult it is, right, to catch the attention of an agent for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
There's certainly an art to it as well.
yes,
And
so we've
also
learned.
luck and timing, I think, also play a huge part.
Fully support that statement. Yes, absolutely. Luck and timing does have a significant amount to do with it.
Mm.
But yeah, the Bones of December. This is I'll call it a psychological thriller. I mean, it
Mhm.
is just a fascinating story that just catches you at the end with the most incredible plot twist. And Shelby, what I think is really cool for you is so when you and I first connected, you were really in the romance space. And so your storytelling has evolved significantly and you kind of moved genres, which
Yes.
I don't know how you did that. You want to talk a little bit about maybe what led you into down that path just to like try something new because you're really good at it.
I think that I've always, just in reading wise, I've always enjoyed thrillers more.
Yeah.
I think I just never felt like I had a story to tell within that space.
Ooh,
And so it was kind of like once the story found me, then I could
yep.
tell the story. But I don't know. I feel like the shift was very easy. And I feel like it's more natural now to write in that space
Yeah.
than not.
Yeah, absolutely. You made such an abrupt like left turn. It's
Yeah.
like we went from reading these like very like heartfelt, emotional, like love stories, and then it went into this like crazy like I'll call it murder inspired, kind of storytelling. We're like, this is such a different vibe.
Yep.
But you did it so flawlessly. And I just adore that story. So I know
Thank
there's
you.
way more positive things to come on that one. So we all wish you luck in that querying process because oof, it's
Thank
brutal.
you. Yes, I could use all the luck my way because, yeah, this is 6 years of querying really takes a toll on somebody.
Oh my gosh, and that reminds me, like I said, we could spend an entire episode talking about
Mhm.
querying and, tips for success, but truly, like you point out, it's luck and timing has a significant amount to do with it too.
For
But
sure.
this is the year. I feel it, and I feel like
Year
this
of
is
the
the
horse
story.
is my
Yes,
year. I'm feeling it.
me too. Well, let's think back to okay, so the Bones of December, how long do you think you've been working on this story? Handful of months? You're pretty
Yeah,
quick.
I think I started it in May of last year,
Okay, yeah, okay, that timing sounds
like May
fairly
to
good.
December. Yeah,
Yeah,
which,
that's
wow,
funny.
that is funny.
So you have to read the book to know why that is important, but that
That
was
is actually
funny that
really
you point that
important.
out.
Very kismet.
It really is. That's funny. Well, let's think back to those early pages that you started in May, right? Because drafting a story, right? It's not just something you sit down and just type out, right? It takes a lot to be able to think through the story, think about character arcs and how they're going to grow and, balancing that dialogue and the description like we talked about. So typically, right, writers come out of it from that first draft with something kind of messy, something that works but it's missing something and it takes a little bit of time to kind of massage it to really find what is the story that I want to tell here.
Yeah.
And so my goal to talk about with you today was to think through like just some best practices of taking that really messy first draft. How did you move through it and continue to get this beautiful polished product at the end?
I think the main thing is to just keep writing because I think that it's very easy, especially I know this quite well because I've abandoned a lot of stories, that if you abandon a story, it's very easy to do. But the minute that you stop writing, you lose the momentum of trying to figure out whatever that missing piece is.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. It's so difficult. And I know that you are the queen of stepping away from stories. And I'm not going to say you abandon them because I am going to make sure that you come back to a few of them. There's one in particular that I know you're going to come back to at some point in time. But yeah, there's something to be said about just kind of sticking with it and you work through it and you find a critique partner that you can
Yeah.
email back and forth and say, what about this? And then that person can be like, no, that's not going to work. And here's why, right? So it's like it's having that sounding board to be able to just think through strategically, how can I make this, the best that it is. But man, those messy pages in the middle, they're tough to persist through.
They really, really are. And that was one of the things that I had an internal struggle about, because I didn't want to tell you what the twist was. But I
No.
feel like for you to be my sounding board and help me through a lot of those issues, I needed to tell you. And so I mean, for a week straight, I was like, no, I'm not going to tell her. I'm not going to tell her.
I know.
Um, and then finally, I'm like, okay, I'm really hitting a wall here. I could use her
Tell
advice.
her.
So I'm going to tell her. And it did help. It helped me figure out how to navigate through those challenges that I was having.
Definitely. Yeah. No, you were definitely a stickler for nope. I want to make sure that the twist is going to work the way that I want it to. So you can't know the inside
Mm.
information. You're killing me with that because I like to be in the know and I like to know all the secrets.
Yeah. It came
Yeah.
from a good place though. It wasn't
Oh,
like
I know.
I was dying. I was like, I need to tell her, but then also like, no, I can't tell her.
I can see why you wanted to keep it to yourself. But yeah, when you're working with something, that's just like there's romances, it's all sweet and it's fluff and it's nice and fun about relationships, right? But when you kind of take it a step up, right, and you enter that like suspense space and
Mhm.
that like psychological, like you're toying with the reader on purpose, right? Like that's
Yes.
the goal is to make them think something and then shock them with some kind of reveal. So it's just harder. Like I just don't know how you like moved into that space so fluidly.
I don't know. I truly think that like if you're meant to write in a space, then that
Hmm.
you will find that. And so I think I
Yeah.
was kind of like dilly-dallying around writing and other stories. And maybe that's why I've had
Yeah.
other difficulties with because like I've had the contract with a publishing company and then
Yeah.
that fell through and then I had an agent and then I separated with them.
Hmm.
Like I think all of these things kind of happened so that I could find
Mind.
space that I'm meant to be in. At least that's what I'm telling myself.
I mean, that is a beautiful perspective because, oh my gosh, the publishing industry, it's so challenging.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard to learn, it's hard to navigate. And I feel like you do kind of learn as you go. Much to be said again about luck and timing for sure, because
Yeah.
yeah, you've been in the space where things were going to happen and then for a variety of reasons had to pull away. So yeah, it's incredibly difficult to be in the publishing space. And for those who don't know, traditional publishing, so there's a process that you go through to be able to work or partner with an agent or a publisher who can help you put out your story if you don't want to go into the self-publishing kind of space, right? So that's where Shelby and I have found most of our time in the last few years is working to secure an agent so you can look for some larger publishing houses that will partner with you to share the story. And so there's a lot that goes into it, but Shelby, I'd love to hear your take on it because I know I can certainly share mine, but the publishing industry has changed so much just in the last 5 years that you and I have been partnering. What's your take on how the evolution has played out?
It's interesting though, because like I feel like I have an outsider's perspective because I've
Yeah.
never officially had that step within. So like I've heard things, from other authors and um I'm just gathering
Yeah.
pieces from what other people are telling
Same.
me. But yeah, it just seems like especially since COVID, I just feel like the entire world has kind of shifted in general. But specifically, it does seem like it's slowed drastically to an
Oh,
already
yeah.
slow business.
So slow.
So
So
slow. And for someone, I mean, I know you're impatient. I'm impatient. Like it really is trying to like teach me to like I need to slow down because it's not good for my nervous system. This how slow they are.
so
Um,
true.
and just the movement of people. People go from um being an editor at a publishing
Hmm.
house and then they're an agent or vice versa and they're switching and there's so much movement going on and so
So
it's like
much.
I may have queried someone a few years ago, well they're long gone by now.
Yeah.
um, and so it's just interesting to see, just trying to get my foot in the door of like so much movement yet it's
Yeah.
all really slow movement.
Oh, it's such the movement. Yes. And yeah, it takes an incredible amount of patience and persistence and
Mhm.
just honestly just pressure over time to be able to secure what it is that you're looking for. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a difficult road. Publishing has changed significantly. I think like you point out since that COVID period, things
Mhm.
have shifted and either you shift along with them or you don't.
Yeah.
Tough. It's tough. Well, Shelby, we've talked about a handful of topics today. So we've kind of covered critique partners. We've talked about your work in progress, the bones of December. We talked a little bit about kind of that messy, rough draft and how to persist and power through until it's a final, pretty polished copy. And we talked a little bit about the publishing industry. So one thing that I would like to do on this show, and lucky you, you're the first guest. I would love to have just a single takeaway, right? So for anyone who is listening to the show, what's the one thing that you would like to bestow on them? Just advice, experience, what is it?
It's definitely persistence.
Mm,
I mean, it's been 6 years of me querying, and in a certain sense, it's like I feel like I haven't moved. I'm still like within that line of like trying to get within the door.
yeah.
But at the same time, I do feel like my writing has evolved. And also, I've had the genre switch. And
Yeah.
so, and none of that would have happened without still pursuing trying to get the next step, my
Yeah.
next um, foot in the door,
Exactly.
And so yeah, so I think it's just persistence. Like if I stop writing and I stop pursuing it, it will never happen. But I guess as long as I still am, there is a chance that it might.
That's very powerful and very well said because you're absolutely right. It's just pressure over time. The
Mhm.
persistence eventually does lead you in the path that you're supposed to be, but it's frustrating. It's definitely a difficult road.
It is. It is for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Shelby, you've offered such really great insight into the publishing space, into your own writing journey, into the casting space as well. Where can listeners learn more about you? Where could they, follow or become your friend?
I am on Instagram mostly,
Yes,
at Shelby9. And yeah,
which I'll include. Yeah.
that's about it. That's I really the only place I'm at.
You're so
I
funny.
should be in more places, I'm sure, but I'm
You'll
really
get
not.
there. You'll get there.
Yeah.
I know. It always makes me laugh. I'm like, I will post anything and everything that appeals to me. And I think we'll make for great content. But I think that's just me coming from the marketing and PR space. But
No, for sure. No, I need to take a page out of your book because I think I'm severely lacking on just being on the one.
well, we'll wait till the good news comes in this year when an agent
Yeah.
is very excited, just as excited as we are about the Bones of December. So that'll be some good news to share.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, Shelby, thank you again so much for joining us today. I'm really excited. This was a great conversation. It came to fruition exactly as I expected. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Hey. All right, all. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Just Right Julie show, where writing meets strategy and creativity meets clarity. I hope today's conversation for anyone listening, you just try something new or you take some advice that Shelby offered, um, even if it's about storytelling or your career or just how to talk about the work that you've produced. You can follow along and subscribe to the show on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. And if this episode helped you, please leave a review and share it with a writer friend who could use these resources too. Until next time, just write and don't be afraid to be strategic about it.